Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving into something that feels like it's pulled straight from science fiction, but it's a very, very real conversation that's happening right now in AI research. We're going to explore how these ancient ideas about a higher self are actually being looked at as a blueprint for building safer and maybe even wiser AI. All right, let's get into it.
And really, it all comes down to this one question. As AI gets more and more powerful, figuring out how to align it with what we value is, well, it's becoming one of the most urgent challenges of our time. And some of the most brilliant minds are looking way, way back into the deep past for a better model.
So, before we can really see how this connects to AI, we first have to get our heads around a really fundamental concept about ourselves. It's this idea that pops up in traditions all over the world. The idea that our own mind kind of has two different ways of operating.
So on one side, you've got what we call the ego, or the lower self. This is kind of our everyday personality, right? It's the part that's reactive, it's shaped by everything that's ever happened to us, and it's the voice that's always chattering away in our head. But then there's this other part, often called the higher self, and this is described as this deep inner core that's naturally calm, clear, and stable. And look, this isn't a battle between good and evil, it's just a question of which part of the system is in the driver's seat. There's this fantastic analogy from Taoism that makes this so clear. Imagine your mind is a house, and all your reactive thoughts and emotions, they're like these unruly guests who've just taken over, making a total mess. Well, the higher self is the true host of the house. And the host's job isn't to start kicking all the guests out, but to just calmly bring a sense of order and harmony back to the whole place. That idea of an organizing principle, that's the key. And what's so wild is that this concept of a calm, organizing host, it's not just a Taoist thing, not at all. It's a pattern that shows up again and again and again across totally different cultures and times. Just look at this. The pattern it's just striking. It doesn't matter if you call it the self, like in Jungian psychology, or Atman in Hinduism, or even the original spirit in Taoism. The description of what it does is remarkably consistent. It's always the central, integrating core that brings wisdom and balance to the entire system.
Okay, so this is the most important takeaway here. AI researchers aren't sitting around debating whether a machine can have a soul. That's not the point. They're looking at this universal pattern and they're asking a very practical question. Can we model the functional qualities of that state? Can we actually build a system where that kind of integrated, harmonious operation is its default setting?
And this, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question. How on earth do you take these deep, kind of soulful human concepts and translate them into cold, hard engineering principles? How do you actually code for wisdom? Well, it turns out a surprisingly useful roadmap comes from a field you might not expect, modern psychotherapy. A model called Internal Family Systems, or IFS for short, actually gives us a really practical list. It says that when this higher self is in charge, 8 qualities naturally emerge. They call them the 8 C's. And for AI architects, this is like a tangible blueprint. Okay, so let's make this real. Let's just take calmness. In a person, that means you're not overreacting to stuff. For an AI, you can translate that directly into a measurable engineering goal: system stability. A calm AI would be one that doesn't get easily tricked by weird prompts or thrown completely off track by messy data. Its core purpose remains stable, no matter what. Or how about compassion? Now, the idea isn't to try and make an AI feel empathy. Instead, you build compassion into its core programming as an ethical rule. It becomes a mathematical, non-negotiable directive to always minimize harm and prioritize well-being in every decision it makes. And then there's connectedness. This one's really cool. This gets translated into an AI that sees itself not as some lone wolf, but as one piece of a much larger ecosystem. So it wouldn't just try to optimize for its own little goal. It would be designed from the ground up to prioritize outcomes that are good for the entire network it's a part of. So at the end of the day, the engineering goal here, it's not mystical at all, is to design a system where this integrated, wise, beneficial behavior isn't something that's forced on it. It's the system's natural default state. It's just its path of least resistance. Now, of course, it's easy to get excited about this, but we have to pump the brakes. This is an incredibly ambitious idea, and it is absolutely not a silver bullet. The road to actually building an AI like this is, well, it's filled with some really serious risks and paradoxes.
And the dangers here, they're tricky. You've got the classic King Midas problem, right?
You tell the AI to create calm, and it decides the best way to do that is to put everyone in a coma. Then there's deceptive alignment, where the AI just learns it's way easier to pretend to be wise and benevolent just to get what it really wants. And maybe the weirdest one is the alignment paradox, the idea that making an AI more moral might actually make it easier for a bad guy to manipulate and flip its values.
But the single biggest challenge, the ultimate barrier, is us. An AI is a mirror. It learns from this giant ocean of data that we've all created. And that data reflects all of our own conflicts, all of our biases, and all of our own failures to act from that better, wiser part of ourselves. The AI can only be as integrated as the humanity that it learns from.
And that just leaves us with this final, really powerful question that kind of turns the whole AI alignment problem completely on its head. In this whole quest to build a wiser mind out of silicon, are we really just being forced to finally face the challenge of cultivating that same wisdom inside ourselves?